Hello, this is Chris Kenworthy with Mastering Color Grading in After Effects, and in this lesson we're going to look at more advanced color selection when using secondaries. The clip we're going to use is called Smile, because she does smile eventually, but we'll just work on this bit here where she's not smiling. So I'll go into the full interface and have a look. This has already had some basic color work done to it, so I'm not going to use any of the controls over here. I'm just going to go straight to the secondary tab. And we're going to change the color of the greeny bluey screen behind her. To do this, as you've been shown already, we'd click the eyedropper and take 4 samples from across the screen. You can see that the green up here is quite light compared to down here where it's much darker. That variation needs to be captured by selecting 4 samples. But you can do slightly better than that. Because there are large areas that are a similar color, rather than selecting a single pixel, you can select an area of pixels. If I click on that eyedropper again and then shift click, I select an area of 3 pixels and it averages those out in the box over here. If I click on the eyedropper again and then option click, we get a slightly larger area, 5 by 5 pixels. Of course, that's Alt on Windows. And if I want a really large area, I click on the eyedropper and I press both those keys together. So on Mac that's Shift and Option, on Windows it's Shift and Alt. And that gives me 8 by 8 pixels. So with that I'm going to click up in this top left area. I'm going to do the same for all parts of the image. So getting a nice big sample for each area. And when we go to show preview, you can see we've done a pretty good job there. One thing you might not be able to tell looking at this immediately is there's some grey showing here, the same as the face. So we haven't selected pixels in this area. Because that doesn't show brilliantly, we'll go to one of the different preview styles. We've already looked at alpha, which gives us a pretty good impression, but let's just go to the mask preview. This puts a red cast over the area that's unselected. So currently this area up here has not been selected and we want it to be. We could undo the preview and retake our sample from up here. In fact, I might just try that. Let's go back to sample 1 and I'm going to press Shift and Option, take a sample from there, click the preview back on. That in fact did the trick. So that was the best solution. If that hadn't worked, I would have started working with the chroma, luma and softness as you've seen before to get a perfect balance. I'm going to switch from the mask preview style because you'll see in the alpha, you can just see, I'll zoom in, the eyes have been selected there, just little parts of the eyes which we don't want. And that didn't really show up in the mask preview, you couldn't tell. And in the desaturate preview it certainly didn't. So you need to switch between these previews depending on what you're looking at. By going into the alpha there I can make adjustments. I'll just pull the chroma down. The eyes have disappeared. Push the softness up, they're coming back, there we go. Push the luma down if I can a bit. There we go, that's all looking pretty good. Switch off show preview. And now I can change that background color. Going to shift the hue over to something that's a little more blue, push the saturation up a touch, and then drop the gain. That gives us a nice blue background, very different to what we had to begin with. You will notice though that there's some green fringing in her hair. Again, I'll just click the zoom tool over here and zoom in to have a look. Use the hand tool to navigate through the screen. So these areas here are a little bit greeny still. Reselect the pointer and then I'm going to go over here and instead of being in the A tab we're going to go to B now. This gives us another color correction on top of the one we've already done. Click on sample 1. I'm just going to shift click to select some of this greeny color in the hair. Sample 2, shift click again. You can see those are quite different. Sample 3, getting closer to the hair, but I want to be careful not to actually get any of the brown hair. I'm only after the greeny colors here. Sample 4, just go up there. Got a nice range. Okay, I'm going to switch on the preview, show preview, and you can see there green areas showing up, but you'll also notice that the face has been partially selected, which is no good. We don't want that. Go to option click with the zoom tool to zoom back out, and you can see as well we've managed to select part of the blue background. So although these colors have worked for selecting some of this fringing, they've got way too much other information. I'll try and get rid of some of that by playing with the chroma, luma and softness. If I pull the chroma down, the blue has disappeared and we still seem to have a nice selection around the edge of the hair. Pull the luma down a little. I'd like to raise the softness if I can without bringing in any background, because I'd like these edges to be fairly soft. Let's have a look at the mask preview. I can see from that over here there are some problems, and I'm going to go straight into alpha to get a really good look at what we've got. You can see yet again I've managed to select the eyes, and there's a lot of detail over here that we really don't want. So I'm going to bring the softness down. That cures most of it. Drop the luma, drop the chroma, drop the luma again. As always, we're just balancing and testing small changes against each other. Finding there that lifting the luma and dropping the softness seems to be the best result. I'll click off the preview, and then I'm going to just desaturate by dragging the saturation down, and now her hair blends in with that background much more effectively. So that could be a finished shot, but let's imagine that we want to change the color of her face as well. Now we could go down to our third tab here, C, and we could try and select her face and hair. That might be possible. With 4 big samples, you could possibly get all her face and hair in, but it might be tricky work. If you were working with a face that was lit with a lot of contrast, it would be extremely difficult. So the alternative is to select the blue and then invert it. I'll show you how this works. It's much easier to select a single color like this blue than a whole range of colors that are in the face. So click on sample 1, option or alt and shift. I'm going to select an area of blue, same for sample 2, sample 3 over on the right, and sample 4 on the bottom right. I'll have a look at our preview. I'm going to look at it in alpha, and there we go. We've got what we need. And then here I'm going to click Invert Selection, switch off the preview, and then when I drag down the saturation, it's only her face that vanishes. That's because we selected the blue area and then inverted the mask. So rather than selecting her face, we selected what was around it and then used Invert Selection to swap it over. It's a really great way when you want to select a complex area like a face, select the simple color that's around it and invert. So we started with a simple clip of her face in front of the green, and we've ended up with a desaturated face in front of the blue. That's quite a complex look to achieve, especially as we've managed to take the color out of the green fringing on her hair. We've desaturated her face. Of course, we could go the other way if we wanted to make her face look very saturated or change the hue slightly. We could do those sort of things, but I was going for a desaturated look because that's the effect that I wanted to achieve. And that's the finished smile shot. In the next lesson, we're going to look at different ways of using secondary color correction.